Konnichiwa. In this video, I'll introduce the top 8 mistakes tourists should avoid in Japan. To make the most of your trip, be sure to watch until the end. One of the first things that surprises tourists visiting Japan is how quiet the streets are. This is especially true on trains and buses, where most people are silently looking at their smartphones or reading books. Some visitors may find themselves wondering, wow, there are so many people here, but why is it so quiet? On trains, you may even be surprised to see people sleeping here and there. To foreigners, this might seem like a rather bizarre sight. Some may wonder,
wait, is it very okay to fall into such a deep sleep in a public space?
But in Japan, trains are almost like moving nap rooms. During the morning rush hour, you'll see office workers in suits nodding off as they dive into dreamland, while students skillfully doze off while hugging their backpacks. As the last trains of the night approach, you might even come across people who have completely passed out and are barely moving. One common mistake that tourists make is speaking loudly in public. When traveling with friends or family, it's easy to get excited and accidentally raise your voice. However, in Japan, there is a strong cultural awareness of not disturbing others. Of course, there are places in Japan where being loud and lively is perfectly fine, such as izakaya or festivals. At an izakaya, for example, you might hear people at the next table enthusiastically shouting, "Cheers!" And in these settings, being loud isn't a problem. However, in places where this isn't the norm, especially on public transportation and at tourist spots, keeping your voice down is considered good manners. Japan is incredibly clean. This is something many first-time visitors say. But this cleanliness isn't the result of magic. It's the result of the efforts of Japanese people. However, did you know that littering by tourists has become a serious problem? In popular tourist spots like Kyoto, Shibuya, and Osaka's Dotonbori, streets are getting covered in trash, and local residents are frustrated. When walking around Japan, you might notice something. Wait, where are all the trash cans? That's right, there are almost no public trash bins in Japan. Why? After the 1995 Tokyo subway sarin attack, public trash bins were removed for security reasons. As a result, Japanese people developed a culture of taking their trash home. The best practice is to bring a small bag with you and store any garbage in your bag until you find a proper place to dispose of it. If you absolutely need to throw something away, look for trash bins at convenience stores or train stations. For bottles and cans, check for recycling bins near vending machines. There's one important rule you must remember when visiting Japan. Take off your shoes at the entrance. However, many tourists who are unaware of this rule make the mistake of walking into a house or facility with their shoes on. To Japanese people, this is shocking. Wait, seriously? It's considered such a major cultural taboo that it's almost like walking on a bed with muddy boots. In Japan, the inside of a house is seen as a clean space. Shoes worn outside carry dirt, dust, and all sorts of outside filth, so wearing them indoors is completely unacceptable. This rule applies not only to private homes, but also to places like ryokan, temples, and onsen. Some rooms with tatami flooring even prohibit slippers. You must go barefoot or wear socks instead. At famous sites like Kiyomizu-dera in Kyoto or Todaiji in Nara, certain buildings have strict rules about removing footwear. If you're unsure whether you need to take off your shoes, just observe the people around you. If others are removing their shoes, follow their lead. Additionally, if you see a row of shoes neatly placed near the entrance, there's a high chance that you need to take off your shoes before entering. In Japanese culture, the simple act of removing your shoes is a sign of respect for others. By understanding and respecting this custom, you'll not only avoid awkward situations, but also enhance your overall travel experience in Japan. Japanese taxis have a unique system that surprises many tourists. Automatic doors. That's right. Japanese taxis feel like something from the future because the driver presses a button to open the door for you. In many countries, it's normal to hail a taxi and open the door yourself. But in Japan, if you try to do this, you might find yourself thinking, huh? Why is this door so stiff? That's because Japanese taxi doors are not designed to be opened manually. To avoid unnecessary trouble, the best thing to do is simple. Once you hail a taxi, Just stand and wait for the door to open automatically. The same rule applies when exiting the taxi. If you instinctively try to close the door yourself, the driver might give you a look that says, "No, that's my job." In Japan, taxis follow the automatic door hospitality culture, meaning you don't need to close the door yourself. Just get out and leave it to the driver. To make your taxi ride as smooth as possible, it's also important to clearly communicate your destination. In many areas, especially in the countryside, English may not be widely understood. The best way to avoid confusion is to show the driver the destination's address on your smartphone, even if you assume the driver will recognize a famous place. Japan has many locations with similar names, so providing specific details is always a good idea. Japan has one of the world's most well-organized queuing cultures. No matter the place or how long the line is, Japanese people always follow the order and wait patiently. However, some tourists are unaware of this custom. In Japan, this is considered completely unacceptable. The queuing culture in Japan applies to many situations. At convenience store, train station gates, restaurant waitlists, buses and trains, entry gates at tourist attractions, and even in front of elevators. In popular ramen shops or theme parks, you might see long lines stretching far outside the entrance. However, some tourists think it's just a little shortcut, it should be fine, and try to sneak ahead in line. This is considered very rude in Japan. People have zero tolerance for line cutting, and breaking this rule will earn you disapproving looks from those around you. One of the most problematic places for line cutting is train station platforms and escalators. In Japanese stations, designated waiting lines are clearly marked on the floor, showing exactly where passengers should stand. Even escalators have strict rules. In Tokyo and most of eastern Japan, people stand on the left side and leave the right side open for those in a hurry. However, in Osaka and western Japan, the rule is the opposite. People stand on the right and leave the left side open. If you stand in the middle or block both sides, it can inconvenience people behind you, especially during the busy morning rush hour, when many commuters walk or run up the escalators. If you unknowingly block the way, people behind you might think, I can't get through. Understanding and following these simple queuing and escalator etiquette rules will make your Japan trip much smoother and more enjoyable. One of the best experiences you can have in Japan is visiting an onsen or a public bathhouse. For Japanese people, onsens are a place of relaxation and healing, and they hold a long cultural history. However, these places have strict rules, and tourists who are unaware of them often end up breaking important etiquette, sometimes leading to awkward or uncomfortable situations. One of the most common mistakes is entering the bath while wearing a swimsuit. In Japan, bathing in an onsen is traditionally done completely naked. However, in many countries, it is common to wear swimsuits in spas or hot springs, so some tourists unknowingly enter without removing their swimwear. In Japan, soaking in the hot spring, fully naked is part of the experience. Not washing your body before entering the bath is one of the most important onsen etiquette rules in Japan. However, some tourists may think, why? Won't soaking in the hot water clean me? And try to jump straight in. This is a big mistake. In Japan, the bath water is shared by everyone. To keep it clean, you must thoroughly wash your body at the shower or washing area before entering the tub. Recently, a growing issue has been tourists bringing their smartphones into the onsen. Many visitors, eager to capture the breathtaking scenery for social media or take a commemorative photo, end up bringing their phones into the bath. However, in Japan, bringing smartphones or cameras into an onsen is strictly prohibited. The reason is simple. Everyone is naked. Plus, many onsen in Japan do not allow guests with tattoos. This is because, in Japan, tattoos have traditionally been associated with organized crime groups. Due to this historical perception, many large onsen facilities and public bathhouses display signs stating, "Guests with tattoos are not allowed." Recently, however, some onsen have started to accommodate tattooed visitors by allowing them to cover their tattoos with special stickers. If you have tattoos, it's best to check the facility's rules in advance and, if necessary, bring tattoo cover stickers to ensure a smooth and hassle-free experience. One of the best things to enjoy in Japan is the food. Sushi, ramen, yakiniku, tempura, everything is delicious. But just eating and enjoying the taste isn't enough. In Japan, food is considered a part of the culture, and if you eat without understanding the proper etiquette, people around you might feel uncomfortable. If you're going to enjoy amazing Japanese cuisine, why not take the time to learn Japanese dining manners as well? Eating with proper etiquette will not only enhance your experience, but also leave a good impression on those around you. Imagine this. You walk into a popular sushi restaurant in Japan. The fish is incredibly fresh, the atmosphere is perfect, and your excitement is through the roof. Then, as the sushi is placed in front of you, you stab it with a fork and prepare to take a bite. Suddenly, the entire restaurant goes silent. You feel the stares. A fork? Really? In Japan, sushi is meant to be eaten with chopsticks or by hand. Even if you're not comfortable with chopsticks, it's still better to eat sushi with your hands, rather than using utensils that aren't meant for it. One of the biggest mistakes you can make in Japanese dining etiquette is breaking chopstick taboos. For example, sticking your chopsticks upright into a bowl of rice. This resembles a funeral ritual in Japan and is considered very bad luck. Another major mistake is passing food directly from one pair of chopsticks to another. This also mimics a ritual performed at funerals and is strictly forbidden. If you want to share food, the correct way is to place it on a plate for the other person to pick up. The way miso soup is consumed in Japan is also a bit unique. In Japan, it is common to hold the bowl directly and drink from it. Using a spoon is not necessarily wrong, but drinking straight from the bowl is the more natural way. It is also perfectly fine to use chopsticks to pick up the tofu or other ingredients in the soup. Shrines and temples in Japan are not just tourist attractions. They are sacred places where gods and Buddhas are enshrined. However, some tourists forget this and behave as if they are in a theme park. For Japanese people, this can be seen as disrespectful and inappropriate behavior. If you are visiting these cultural sites, it is important to follow basic etiquette and show respect while enjoying the experience. One of the first things to be mindful of when visiting a shrine or temple is how to approach the torii gate. At the entrance of every shrine, you will see a large gate called a torii. This is not just an ordinary gate, but a symbol that marks the boundary between the human world and the sacred space of the gods. When passing through a torii, it is customary to bow slightly as a sign of respect before entering. After passing through the torii gate, you will always find a temisuya, a water purification station used to cleanse your hands and mouth before praying. This is an important ritual in proper shrine etiquette. However, some tourists mistakenly think it is just a decorative water feature and try to wash their face or even their feet, which is completely inappropriate. The correct way to perform temisu is as follows. Take the ladle with your right hand and pour water over your left hand to cleanse it. Switch the ladle to your left hand and pour water over your right hand. Pour a small amount of water into your left hand. Bring it to your mouth and rinse lightly. This process is part of traditional Japanese etiquette, and while it is not mandatory, knowing and following it will show respect and enhance your cultural experience. Another common mistake is not knowing the proper way to pray at shrines and temples. One important thing to remember is that shrines and temples have different prayer customs. At shrines, the correct method is 2 bows, 2 claps, 1 bow. However, at temples, clapping is not part of the ritual. At a temple, you should simply put your hands together quietly and pray. It is also important to follow the photography rules at shrines and temples. While taking photos is common at tourist spots in Japan, there are certain areas where photography is strictly prohibited. For example, inside the main hall of a temple, or near sacred objects enshrined at a shrine. Photography is often forbidden. However, some tourists ignore these rules and take pictures anyway, which is considered highly disrespectful. Another common issue in Japan is touching Jesus statues or Buddhist sculptures. Some tourists, out of curiosity, reach out and touch them without realizing their significance. However, this is not acceptable. These statues are sacred religious symbols, deeply respected by many people. If they are damaged, restoring them can be extremely difficult, and in some cases the damage may be irreversible. Shrines and temples are special places filled with Japan's history and traditions. By understanding and following these basic rules, you can deepen your appreciation of Japanese culture and fully experience the beauty of these sacred sites. When visiting sacred sites, approach them with respect and take the time to quietly observe and appreciate the culture. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. See you in the next video.